the latest episode of The Ugly Truth. That's right, there is a show today on Sunday because I thought it was Labor Day weekend and it isn't. So here's your show. We talk about exercise trends. We talk about my cat's anal glands. It is a fun-filled event. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the show. Welcome to The Ugly Truth. This is episode 492.
Sorry. That was kind of like a dead bird like crashing into the window. We're getting close to 500, so we're going to have to figure something out.
We got to figure out something fun to do, unusual. Well, I was thinking we could maybe do a Zoom or something and then just record we just have to slap a coat of paint on and make sure we look presentable to each other and then record the Zoom and post that unedited.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Because, I mean, initially I wanted to go roller skating, but that's not going to happen. So.
No. I don't know how that would happen.
Well, but I mean, it would still be fun. I mean, I'm like, well, we could go ice skating, but I mean, that is unacceptable. That would never work.
Well, I mean, it's just, how are we going to film all that and then have it spliced and,
forget it.
And...
We can do the Zoom call. That I think it would be fun, actually. We haven't done a video podcast ever, so maybe that could be our first one.
Be a first.
Speaking of, so you've gotten me completely addicted to Reddit.
Yes.
And I did find the medical advice subreddit.
Ask Docs.
No, it's another one. It's our medical advice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, this one doesn't have a lot of genitalia requests on it. This one is mostly like legit injuries, like mostly digits and arms and leg type stuff. And so like somebody will go, hey, does this look infected? There's a lot of those. Mm-hmm. And it's great because I can go, yeah, it does. Go to the doctor. And there's a lot of med students that are in there. I don't know if your subreddit has a lot of med students in it or doctors in it.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's usually just people that go on there and a lot of people just describe their symptoms and, that's not very helpful, especially if it's like they're trying to diagnose like a specific, they're like, so I have this rash. It looks like this. And, I did this. And they're just like, it's really hard to say unless we see what the rash looks like.
Take a picture, send it.
But a lot of people don't want to do that.
Oh, well, I found there was like, and they're all like, you can put your pain level in the post. So you can go pain level 1 to 10 and they can say 3 or 4 or whatever. And so there's one guy posted and he goes, hey, my friend and I are drinking and this happened to him. And they show a picture of this guy. His arm and chest are completely broken out in this really weird looking rash. And it wasn't raised or anything. It was just like somebody had painted red splotches on him. And
was the friend Asian?
No. And so they were in the South. And he goes, we ate like 100 pounds of crawdads. And then we started drinking copious amounts of alcohol. And so they go, well, is your friend drunk right now? And he said, yeah, we're hammered. He goes, you need to call 911 because your friend is having an anaphylactic response to the shellfish. And he could die. And so this was all happening almost in real time. And the friend's like, okay, yeah, but I'm drunk too. They're like, you can press 3 buttons, call 911 and get someone out there because he will die. And there's never any follow-up, so you never really know what's the what. But, that's the kind of stuff like this one girl, she goes, I woke up with this thing on the bottom of my foot and it hurts. What is it? And I'm like, ooh, spider bite. And it's like, oh my God,
Right.
So anyway.
What is that one called? Or what?
It's called, I think it's called medical advice or something like that. I'll if I can't, you'll have to find it. But anyway, so there was that. So I spent hours in that freaking thing. It was insane. And what's a little intimidating is there's a lot of med students and a lot of ER docs who fish through there. So it's like you don't want to give legitimate medical advice when you see doctors responding to stuff. So you kind of just read. And then if you see something that you've actually seen before, you can go, oh, I know what that is. That's chiggers or, mosquito bite. Don't worry. And, stuff like that. But what's funny is people will post and go like, I'm scared. They're like terrified. They're like, am I dying? The other night, Malia came home and she had worn a really high ponytail, like Ariana Grande style.
Yeah.
And it was like 12 o'clock at night. And she Snapchatted me from her room and I'm in my room. And she's like, Mom, there's a bump on the back of my head. So I think I'm dying. And I said, well, did you wear a really high and tight ponytail today? And she said, yeah. And I go, well, your skin probably created like almost like a faux hematoma.
Right. From like the suction or whatever.
Right. From the rubber band. And so she pulls it out. She goes, that's exactly where my rubber band was on my head. And I said, yeah, you probably just created like a suction bubble and it'll go away. If it doesn't go away, I'll feel it and we'll take you to the doctor. But I'm sure as shit because I've done it a gajillion times to myself. So the next day she goes, yeah, it was the rubber band. So now she's like wearing braids. She's so afraid to do it again. So she's like trying to do other hairstyles. She's like, I don't want to make a bump.
Even doing her hair.
I know. So,
oh my gosh. So this is Reddit. Listen to this.
What?
It says rage/anger in 3-year-old disappears after taking Benadryl. Why?
Welcome to the world of Triaminic and Benadryl for toddlers.
My 3-year-old son has been angry and aggressive. And I'm like, well, let me guess. You're not a disciplinarian, are you? And she says, our household is extremely docile. Our 2-year-old is not like that, but he will like literally like flip over coffee tables and, throw himself on the floor or throw things.
Yeah, it's called being a boy.
And I'm just like, well, that and also
no structure.
Why do you let him throw over a coffee table? Did you tell him that's not okay?
Yeah.
That, coffee tables don't get flipped over when we're mad.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean,
sometimes
lack of structure will anger and infuriate small children. They crave it.
It
makes them feel safe. That makes them feel safe. It's not, well, we're all about natural here. We just let kids just do whatever they want and they figure it out on their own. Like, no, they're born with no idea what society is or what's acceptable. So you tell them what's acceptable and they go, oh, I understand. I feel safe. But when you're just like, do whatever you want. This is a free zone. It's like, ah! And some kids shut down like your 2-year-old and some kids lose their shit like your 3-year-old because they're demanding structure. Yeah. So let's drug them.
Well, yeah. And so it's just like then they said they had him tested at 6 months old for overly aggressive behavior. And I'm just like, oh, let me guess. He was flipping over when you were trying to change his diaper and he got pissed.
Like normal.
And I'm like, yeah. My kids did that once each and I smacked them on the thigh and they looked at me like, what the hell was that? And I'm just like, you want to flip over and do your diaper thing again?
Yeah, they're like,
just like, no. And I'm just like, good, because I don't want you to either. So
because you go leap it off.
I said, because this isn't fun for either of us. So sit still, let me put this thing on you and then you flee, go, run, crawl, whatever it is that you have to do.
Go wriggle around. It's fine by me. Oh, speaking of, Katy Perry had her baby.
Oh, yeah. Didn't she have a girl or something?
She had a little girl, and it's like something. Daisy Dove Bloom is the name.
Actually, I think it was.
Or is it Dove Daisy Bloom?
Yeah, I want to say it was a Willie or something.
No. It's Daisy Dove because it's DDB because they created through UNICEF. They created like a fund in her name for other babies. So they call it the DDB fund or whatever. But yeah, and I'm like, well, that's nice. I don't want to see what kind of mother she's going to be. I'm personally curious, but I wonder what kind of mom she's going to be. It'll be interesting.
Well, I don't know.
I don't really care. I knew you wouldn't care much, but I did want to mention she's a mother now, so it'll be curious. She's pretty nutty in general, so I'm curious what kind of kid she's gonna raise and if Orlando will have any say whatsoever in the raising of said baby. We'll see.
Well, he is from Europe too, so they are kind of strict about languages and things like that.
Truth.
Like I was telling Ryan, because he was complaining about his Spanish class, because it's his second year of Spanish. He took 1 year in junior high school in 8th grade, but they consider that 1 year of language in high school because it's technically a high school language class.
Okay.
And so, but they require 3 years of language
to graduate.
Right. And I said, that's fantastic. And he's like, not really. I'm like, why? And he says, that means I have to take, another year of Spanish after this. I'm like, Ryan, I'm like, seriously? I'm like, in Europe, like in the UK and stuff, I'm like, those kids learn like no less than 3 to 5 languages when they're in school.
They learn a lot.
And I'm like, it's an asset to know other languages. I wish they had been more diligent about that kind of stuff when I was in school.
Me too. I was telling Daryl that when I started high school, I wanted to take French. I was ready. I was so excited. I had taken 2 years of Spanish in junior high and I hated it. And I really wanted to take French. And Mom was like, hell no, you are taking Spanish. I don't know how she did it, but it's like she would not sign off on French. So, because back in those days, your parents had to sign your schedule requests. And so it was Spanish or nothing. And so I took 3 years of Spanish and I hated every fucking semester of it. I don't know how, I mean, I hated it. I hated it. And what made it worse is Mrs. Takagishi was also the French and Japanese teacher. And I was like, please, I just want to be in French so bad. So, of course, all my children now speak French because of me. Because I'm like, take French so I can learn. It's crazy.
Okay.
What?
Nothing.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Is everything okay?
I think I fell asleep for a second.
You didn't sleep last night?
I went to bed at 2, but I hadn't slept the night before, so.
Oh. Well.
Yeah. You know, I don't know why that is. It seems like just, you know, the ounce of stress, I just don't sleep. So.
I agree. I have not slept well for the last couple of days. One of the reasons is my cat, Angelica. She's almost 15. And we picked her up. And okay, so a couple of years ago, she had a burst anal gland.
Oh, God.
If you recall.
Oh, isn't that where it like ripped her asshole open?
She had 2 assholes. And I'm like, what is this? And so I took her to the vet. And they're like, oh.
That sounds like a bad porn.
Oh, my God. Or a good one, depending on your taste. And so they said, oh, yeah, she had her anal gland was infected and it kind of abscessed and then it burst open. So all the infection left, but there was a gaping wound. And so they sedated her, sewed it up, put her on antibiotics and painkillers. And I'm like, okay, so since then, I check her all the time. I am so dumb. Did you know that cats have to have their anal glands expressed?
Well, you know, I mean, I've heard both cats and dogs have to, but you know what? In all the pet ownership years I've had, I've never expressed anything from any anus of an animal.
Me neither.
And they've all been fine.
Now, I will say, when I've given my dogs baths, they definitely can express an odor. And I'm like, well, that must be the anal glands.
I mean, when I take them to the groomers, I know they do it there, but I'm just like, well, that's your prerogative. I'm not sticking anything in there. I mean, what do you want me to do? Poke it with a pencil eraser and hope something squirts out?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how that goes, but
I don't even really wash their ass. I just kind of like, you know, hose it down or whatever.
Sure.
Whatever flakes fall off. I'm like, all right, good.
So anyway, we check Angelica pretty regularly because I don't want that to happen to her again. So the other day, we checked her, and sure as shit, there was another asshole. And I'm like, how did we miss this again? So
it was infected, or it just started?
It was a gaping wound again, and not as big or as bad, but it was there. And so we took her to the vet the next morning, and they said, yeah, all of her anal glands are blocked and there's some infection and it's swollen. So, you know, they didn't have to sedate or suture her. They're like, no, we don't want to do that. We want her on antibiotics. Here's a pain pill she can take for 3 days, 1 a day. And then you need to do warm compresses. And I'm like, well, how do you do that to a cat? She's like, well, you have to take a really nice warm washcloth, not too hot, and basically put it on her bottom area and just kind of, you know, do it for like 10 minutes every couple of hours. I'm like,
have you ever tried to hold a cat still for 10 minutes with a wet washcloth anywhere on their body?
I'm like, that sounds like torture for her and
I can't
me.
even give my cat a flea treatment without her like,
I know. You know? Right. So she's like, well, anyway, so she needs to come back in 2 weeks, and she definitely needs to get on a schedule to have her anal glands expressed. And I said, now, is this something that I should be doing at home after all is said and done? Is this something that I should be doing? She's like, technically you can, but cats don't tend to like it all that much. And I'm like, well, you don't say. I'm like, have you ever met
when you're
anyone?
Talking about anal gland expression, that doesn't sound, I mean, unless, you know, again, you're into that category, and I don't even know if you can express a human anal gland. I'm sure there's ways, but
that sounds
nothing I want to know about.
I don't want to be in that category. So she said, but you do have to put your fingers in the cat's anus. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. She goes, well, you can have a tech appointment. I'm like, well, that would be fabulous because I'm never doing that. I mean, when she told me that, I said, well, there go my dreams of ever working in the veterinarian field. Because I have no desire to express anal glands from a cat. cat because she goes, most cats bite. I'm like, oh, do they? I'm like, well, that's strange because that's what I would do.
One of those freaking cones on their head.
I suppose you could.
I'd glue two together and make like a cyclone. I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and try and get out of there, fucker.
Yeah, just let me do this. Yeah, it just sounds like a lot of lube and glove work that I'm not interested in participating in. So, so that's what we're doing. So now I get to give her every 12 hours liquid antibiotics and then put a pill down her throat every 24 hours for the pain.
Do they give you the pill launcher, or do you just do the pill regularly?
She is literally the best cat ever. She swallowed her pill with no effort. And when I was trying to hold her so she could take her liquid medicine, she's like, you don't have to do that. I'll just take it. So it's like, if I put it in her mouth, she'll just drink it. I've never had a kid this easy. It's crazy. She's the best cat ever. And I hate it that she's, old. Because now she's going to die.
I guess it just depends because, like, some of the medicines, they are actually, like, liver flavored and stuff. So we had a medication we had to give to Bo, and he was fine with it. The cats, though, are different. Like, they have, like, these little tiny white pills.
Yeah.
And we literally had, like, a little hook, and we, like, pulled back, and then when we let go, it, like...
launches into the back of their throat?
Kind of, like a reverse... It's like a overhanded slide, and it like micro machines or something like that, and it like slides back, like circulates over the top and underneath, but like it's upside down, and then it circulates back into their throat, like so far to where they can't.
They're just like, you can't fight it, you gotta just swallow it.
Right. So
that's nice. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing.
It didn't work for Toby, obviously, but...
Yes. All right. So the main crux of our discussion today, you mentioned something a couple of weeks ago about exercise trends and fads and stuff like that. And it made me really think about it. And I'm like, God, our mom was really into exercise fads. And I don't know if you remember that about her.
No, I do. Well, what prompted all of this was we were watching TV... and they were showing this thing, and I'm like, what in the hell is that? And basically, it was on this list that I found, but you put this, like, attachment to your body. It's like a belt or something.
Yeah.
And all it does is, like, shake vigorously. Like, kind of like a vibrator.
It's the slender tone belt, Paula.
I don't know what it is.
That's what it's called. It's called the slender tone belt, and you put it on, and it vibrates, and you don't have to do any of the work. It does the work for you.
But when you're on it, when you're wearing it, there's a board that you're standing on.
Oh,
and
what?
I think that vibrates too or something. And you can go from a standing to a climbing to a running position.
Oh, that's not the slender tone belt. That's something else.
But you're not doing anything. And so that was the biggest complaint is that, they weren't seeing results from the original one because all they did is they felt like it was just shaking them.
Interesting.
And so with this one, there's like a I don't know. I wouldn't describe it as U-shaped exactly, but it was they're just like stand there for walking, a little bit wider for a jog, and then all the way out for a run. And I'm like, so you just put your feet out,
like you're
and
just
like, look, I'm running, and you're like, and you're just vibrating, and I'm just like. God, I'm like, you look really dumb. I'm like, I don't think I tell people that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know if
and of course they show the glistening, oiled man with like the chiseled abs.
Because he's the one that needs it. He's the one that needs it to stand really widely somewhere in his house, sculpting.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
I was thinking about some of the trends. I mean, maybe you can think of some that she did, but I remember the very first fad that she purchased and she bought into was the mini trampoline. We had that.
We did have that.
We had the brown mini trampoline that it did come with a handle stand where you could hold the stand or hold this handle so that you could jump and stuff without falling off. But Mom did not go that route. She just got the trampoline. It came with a video. Now, here's the thing. I never saw our mom working any of these things that she purchased. I've never
Not
seen
that I
her.
can recall. No, it was always us.
Yeah, we were the ones doing it. And I'm wondering now, when I was looking through the list of all the things that she used to have, I'm wondering if it was to keep us out of her hair and keep us busy, or did she really think that she was going to do it?
Well, I mean, she bought so many things too. Like she bought all those Buns of Steel videos.
Yes.
And she would do the Buns of Steel video. Like she'd get motivated. She's like, all right, I'm going to do it. And so she would do it like one day for like an hour. And then like the next day I was like, are you going to do your videos again? Cause I would like do them with her when I was like 12.
Sure.
And then she'd just be like, the next day, she's like, gosh, my butt and thighs are just so sore. She's like, I think I need to take a break today and like just rest them. And then I'll start again tomorrow. And then never went away. And so she just stopped going. I was thinking, I'm like, I think you have to kind of keep persistent at that stuff if you want it to work. But
in fact, when you're sore is the time to do it.
Right.
The other thing that she got into was Stop the Insanity with Susan Powter.
Stop the insanity.
Yes. Do you remember Susan Powter? She was the woman that had she had a shaved head with brilliantly blonde platinum.
Oh my God, I do remember her.
Yes. Mom bought the book. We had the video of Susan Powter. And I remember vividly her saying she would show a picture of her at the mall where she weighed 220 pounds with her baby in a stroller. And her husband left her. And she's like, that's it. And then the after photo, she goes, I remember the first day I actually had a thigh gap, which is her thighs were no longer touching. And that was the day she was empowered. She was all about the angry divorced woman and regaining your control back in your life via exercise and empowerment. And Mom was sold. Sold.
She's like, well, if she can do it, then I can do it.
Oh, yeah. She's like, oh, well, this is me. This is my life. And
oh God, Mom even brought Sweat into the Oldies.
We had Sweat into the Oldies. The only thing she didn't do was Deal a Meal with Richard Simmons. She didn't do that because we weren't obese. She just wanted to get exercise.
We eat just fine, which we really didn't. But and she's like, there's nothing wrong with my diet. It's just that we
need to move.
I just need to get up and move. That's all it is.
Right. And so we did have Sweat into the Oldies. She did do the Buns of Steel. Now, I'm pretty sure we had the Suzanne Summers Thigh Master because Mom loved Suzanne Summers back in the day.
Yes, she did. She did. Well, yes. So I remember there was the Thigh Master. I think actually our stepmom had one. That's what, but I remember we would play with it and we would just do it to the extent where it would like spring out of our legs and try and hit someone with it.
Launch it off into, creating violence.
Okay, so I'm seeing this one thing where it's a bar, but it's like a wobble bar.
Oh, the body blade.
Yes, the body blade. What the fuck is that thing?
It's the new shake weight.
Is that new?
Yes. You basically hold it and you vibrate and you're like, and you try to I don't know what the goal is if you're trying to get it still again or if you're just using that as a way to work all your muscles to kind of, I'm not really sure the thing, what the goal is other than to engage every muscle in your body with it. But it's just the shake weight in a long sword form. It's not, to me, that's what it looks like. So
yeah, I don't know what it is. So
I found one thing. I don't know if you remember this. I never watched Ellen even in the early years, but apparently there's this thing called the Hawaiian Chair.
I saw that.
Okay, so you did see it.
What the hell is that thing?
I saw this thing. It said the Hawaiian Chair is so named because anyone who sits on it looks like they're doing a reluctant hula dance.
Maybe that's how they get you these days.
It's out of business. Nobody does it anymore, but you sit on it, and I saw a little snippet of Ellen doing it because I guess she thought she was intrigued by it, and
she's pretty coordinated too. But
it looked horrible. By the way, I would never.
Yeah, it looked like she was going to split her body in half because her bottom half was moving one way and her top half was moving the other, and she's like, ah.
Yes.
The other one, of course, the classic Tony Little Gazelle.
I don't remember that one. Tell me.
He's
I know Tony Little. I've heard that name.
Let me see here. I'll send you the GIF picture. Basically, it's like the foot glider where he's standing on there and they're just like sweeping their legs on the bottom, but it looks like a gazelle.
We could never do that.
Well,
Never.
that's just the thing is that then there was another one where this lady, she was holding like, if it was a pogo stick, she was holding onto the handles and then her feet were on these pedals and they just kept sliding in and out of these elevated ramps.
Yes.
And I'm like, that just looks dangerous. I mean, like,
you have to have a lot of coordination to pull stuff off like that.
I wouldn't even be able to get on that unless I was like, dropped by crane. I just...
How would you get on without sliding around?
It'd be impossible.
It would be. Remember Tybo? Do you remember the Tybo series where it was a dude? I can't remember his name, but it was a dude where you basically were pretending to do karate.
Yeah.
Tybo. There was that one. And then there was the P90X, of course, which a lot of people still swear by, but Daryl bought it and he ended up giving it to someone to borrow. like a month after he bought it.
Second version of P90X, I bought Insanity.
Oh, yeah. Did you do it?
Was like twice, and that was Insanity.
It was Insanity. You're like, how could anybody force me to do this?
Especially when he's going up to his partners and he's just like, come on, get it, and everyone's
like, stop talking to me.
And they've got like sweat dripping all over their bodies and eyelids and eyelashes, and they're like, yeah, it feels good. Then they're kind of like looking at him like, take the camera away.
Yes.
Okay, so I just sent you the picture of the Tony Little Gazelle.
Oh, I remember that. Did we have one of those? I want to say we had one.
Possible. It is entirely possible. It just makes me think of that scene in Juno where he's sitting there talking. The dad is talking to the mom, and Juno and the husband are looking at records or something in his band room. And he's like, you like music? And she's like, yeah. And so he was asking, what kind of vegetables they were. And he's like, so squash, blocks and bagels, and then I don't remember what else it was, like a pear or something. And he's just like, oh, okay. He's like, what's that machine over there? And she's like, oh, it's a Pilates machine. And he's like, oh, what do you make with it? And she's like, oh, you don't make anything with it. You just do Pilates. It's an exercise. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, I bought my wife one of those Tony Little Gazelle things for Christmas one year. And she's like, oh, and he's just like, I don't know. She didn't really like it. He's like, there's something not right about that guy. So
I do remember that scene. It's really funny and true. There is something wrong with that guy.
I don't know what his deal is.
I did find a couple from like the 20s, because even back in the 20s, apparently weight loss was imperative for women.
Well, everyone's always doing these shaking ones, and I'm like, maybe shaking is the way to go. I don't know.
Well, there was a fat reducing soap that women could buy to remove the fat from their ankles, their wrists, and their arms.
Before their husbands got home,
apparently. There was that one. It washed the fat away. It was guaranteed to wash the fat away. And then, of course, and this one actually legit works, the cigarette diet. So they just, smoke cigarettes every 4 hours and you will be guaranteed to lose weight. I'm like, well, that's not a lie. That is true. Cigarettes can keep you thin because it does modify your hunger.
Well, I remember one time I was eating lunch when I worked for the county for like that temporary position. I had a Dr. Pepper, a Reese's peanut butter cup, and a pack of cigarettes. And I'm just like, breakfast of champions.
Single girl's diet. For real. It does work. It's no lie. Lucky Strikes had something going on then. And then the other one I found was Vibrating Bras. Apparently, if you had your children suck the meat out of your boobs, you could buy this vibrating bra and it will return the firmness and the fullness that you once had in youth. And I'm like, wow, that seems excessive.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I mean, I don't know that I want to go back to being a B cup. So
I asked Daryl the other day, I said, he asked me, I don't even know how it came up. He goes, well, would you be married to me if I had a small penis? And I'm like, I don't know. And, smaller than average. And I'm like, I don't know. And I go, would you be married to me if I was a B cup? And he's like, I don't know.
he's like, point made. I get it.
Yeah, it's true. And it's like, well, I mean,
and you're like, no, it's a serious question.
I am serious because like, when he goes, well, I just found you very attractive when I met you. And I'm like, yes, because I have double D's. If I was like if I was an A or a B, would you have went, oh, I gotta see those naked? No, you would not. You'd probably be like, seen it.
As far as you know.
True. And then the one I saw that was really weird was weight loss sunglasses. Did you see those?
The weight loss sunglasses.
A Japanese company released blue sunglasses. I remember this. That turned all the food you ate an unappetizing blue color. And apparently, if you kept them on, you wouldn't be hungry because everything would be blue and it wouldn't be appetizing and it would help you lose weight.
That's weird.
It makes no sense. I would never do it. But I just thought, well, I mean, if you're trying to keep food unappetizing, you know, there's other ways. You could take a laxative. You can, although that's really unhealthy. But I'm just saying, you know, maybe you need some therapy. I'm not really sure.
What? So you put special magic powder on your food and
that would work to make everything taste terrible. But I don't know. I you know what? And for some reason, I think they did do that. I think there was something where you could sprinkle stuff. Oh my God. I don't know what it was, but you could sprinkle stuff on your food and it would make you not want to eat very much. When was that? It must have been the 80s.
I remember a 600-pound life. This woman was bedridden, and she kept sprinkling this like dietary supplement stuff on her food, and it was supposed to reduce the amount of her calorie intake.
What?
She said that, I don't know where she got it, but the doctor's just like, I see what you're saying. He says, no, you don't put it on your food. You take it before you eat your food. And I don't know if it's like some kind of like natural filler or something that expands.
There are supplements that will make you feel full.
Right.
Yes.
And so I think that's what it was.
Interesting.
But I mean, she was using a pack every time she ate. So.
Oh my God, that wasn't working.
Well, it was sad. She ended up dying anyway.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, I found some current exercise fads that are coming up apparently. And these are not ones that our mom would probably subscribe to because it's all about movement and not an apparatus. The first one I found, which I thought you would find interesting. Well, she might actually do this one. It's called Pound. And it is a full body cardio workout that uses weighted drumsticks called ripsticks. And it's a constant simulation of drumming. And you do it for 45 minutes at a whack. And no pun intended. And you burn 900 calories per workout. And it's basically weighted drumsticks and you move around with them and you're drumming. That's the movement you're making as you're working out. And they call it Pound. Mm-hmm. All right. Enough of the exercise stuff. My guess is we're not going to buy ripsticks anytime soon. Mom may try to buy them one day. But let's do some ugly and awkward moments of the week.
As I've mentioned, I've been stressed out the last few weeks, and when I get stressed, I get insomnia, and then I get really tired. Yes. So I don't think it was the last show, but I think it was the show before that. We had ended the show. I knew I was getting really, really tired, and so we were just kind of like wrapping things up. But I was trying to like wrap things up because I was just like, I'm dying here.
Yes.
And so you were listing a couple things, and I'm like, and then I said, and I was like, my eyes were closed, and I was listening to the things, and then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, and then I'm like, and then the dog food, and then
you're heard that,
like, and you're like, what? And I'm like, and I opened my eyes, and I was just like, did I just say that? You know, because you were talking about like the things we had to do, and then I said, and the dog food, and then I was just like, I said that because I was thinking of like a sequence of things I had to get done, but then I also was thinking like I have to buy dog food. But then I don't know why I said that. And then you're like, are you all right? And I'm like, I think I just fell asleep for a second.
You did. Yes. Well, and we're also recording a little bit earlier than we normally do. And so it could be, you know, that with insomnia can definitely do it. And maybe my voice is just very comforting to you.
Yes, you should do ASMR. So
here's what I've noticed. We're in month 4 or 5 of this pandemic, which isn't very far in.
For us, it started in March. Because remember, our school got pulled first.
But in general, I'm sensing, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, people are hitting their breaking point with a lot of stuff. And, you know, we deal with it in any way we can. Any added stress of just living life seems far worse because we're dealing with this constant ache from, you know, our lives being altered. So to me, it's like, we're all handling differently, and insomnia, I'm right there with you. I mean, I have it too. So,
well, I mean, the pandemic, I mean, I'm sure I don't have to state the obvious.
Yeah.
It's just magnified everything on like such an extreme level that anything that happens, and on the daily news cycle, it's just like everybody sees it. Everybody has an opinion on it. And it just makes everybody that more agitated. Mm-hmm. It's really starting to wear on people.
Oh,
and
yeah, it is.
It's, I don't know. I try and keep things in perspective. Well, and like I said, I stopped watching the news and getting news feeds and everything like about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty content with it. But I mean, I still see friends post things. Yeah. And like, I had no clue about the 17-year-old at the protest thing.
Right.
Until someone said something yesterday. I'm like, what? I'm like, what's that about? You know, so I felt like,
well, I mean,
completely in the dark about the whole thing.
Yeah. And you said something last night because you had a falling out with a friend, and you said something last night like, in a few months, we're not going to even remember what we were so mad about. And that's the truth. Mm-hmm. And I would collectively say we as a human society, we're all really amped up about everything. We're a little bit idle. We're not as busy as we used to be. So we have time to focus on things that seem so outrageous. Like, I'm with you. I didn't watch a moment of these conventions because I'm like, I don't need to hear it. I don't need to hear how bad everybody is. We're well aware. And by the way, there ain't no independent voters. We all know how we're voting. So we don't really need to have this. And I don't need to watch anything to make me angry. I don't need to be pandered to. So it's like, let's just move on. But I definitely have cut back on social media. I encourage everyone to do it too, because it's so harmful to everything right now. There's no joy.
Like one of my friends said, he's like, well, I'd like to see a debate. I'm like, a debate about what?
What is there to debate?
I said, I'm like, who you're going to vote for. Yeah. I'm like, they're complete polar opposites. And I'm just like, where they stand. Mm-hmm. I said, there's nothing to debate. I said, it would just be a giant shit show.
That's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I said.
I'm like, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
I'm like, no one's mind is going to get changed in the next, 2 months or 3 months over a debate.
Nope. We could have the election tomorrow and we'd have the same results that we have in November. It's not going to matter.
I agree.
And at this point, I don't even care. I'm like, can we just move? I mean, we can never move on apparently, but it would be lovely if we could. So with that being said, that is why we have insomnia, because regular life and then this overwhelming other thing, that's happening that never goes. It's like fucking torture, it's constantly there. So anyway, with that being said,
yes,
my awkward moment is last week I announced boldly that we were all taking the weekend off because it was Labor Day weekend, and shock of all shocks, it's not. So
no, it's not.
That's why you're hearing this.
Because I was done recording and I'm like, hey, it's Labor Day weekend this weekend, and he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, it's not. And he's like, no, it's the 31st on Monday. And I'm just like, what? And so I looked at the calendar. I'm like, oh, it is.
Well,
and
what
then
do
I'm
you
just
know?
Like, well, I'm like, I guess I'll have to break the news to Jamie.
I know, and you did. I'm like, oh my God. And so I told Daryl, I'm like, hey, Labor Day weekend is the following weekend. And he's
How
like,
did he not know either?
Because apparently my lie is very convincing to all.
So
they're like, I want to believe you.
He doesn't fact check you at all. He's just like, well, she says it is, then it is.
It must be.
So it is written. So it shall be done.
So it shall be done. So anyway.
Like, who are you, fucking Ramses?
I don't know. So anyway, sorry everyone. Although
Silence!
I'm sure a million people, well, I wish a million people heard that and they went, no, it's not.
Like,
it's next week.
No,
so yeah, you all knew.
Not how that goes.
In fact, a lot of you probably went, I can't wait to hear her say this is her awkward moment next week, because that's exactly what it is.
Well,
so anyway,
did he? So he left that in the show then? Huh?
Oh, he did. He goes, well, it's out in the ether now. There's nothing we can do about it. I'm like, well,
you know what? Probably nobody's going to expect a show this Sunday. So
yeah, they'll be like, hey, not only do I have to work on Monday, I got a show.
Our title would be like, hey, guess what? ... Not Labor Day weekend.
Exactly. Just kidding. So anyway.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Sorry if the show was a little odd. I'm sure, it was odd for me, but that's just because,
you are odd.
I was a bit aimless today.
That's fine.
It's one of those nights where I'll wake up and I'll be like, what happened last night? Oh,
did I do a show?
What did I say? Keep shopping Amazon and Ugly. It's called livingclub.com. Okay. I'm done.
You're done.
Have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.